Okay, we're on. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the, I should know today's date, shouldn't I? June 27th, 2024 edition of the Plastow Zoning Board of Adjustment. Dee, would you be kind enough to call the roll?
Peter Bealow,
I'm here.
Jim Unger,
Here.
Jonathan Gifford is excused, Michael Murray,
Here.
Jim O'Brien.
Here.
Excellent.
You have 4 voting members.
Okay. Mr. O'Brien, would you be kind enough to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Certainly. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, sir. All right. So I'm going to go through the kind of procedures that we follow tonight. Okay, each public hearing will be opened in turn. The applicant will present their case, the board will question, and then the hearing will be opened to the public for comment. Once everyone who wishes to be heard has been, that public hearing will be closed. Once a public hearing has been closed, there cannot be any additional input on that hearing. The board will immediately deliberate on that application before opening another public hearing on any additional applications. There could be times where applications that are so interrelated that the chair may decide to hear them simultaneously, but each will be deliberated separately. All motions regarding relief will be made in the affirmative to grant form for clarity and consistency. The format of the motion should not be considered indicative of how any member, including the maker of the motion or the second of the motion, might vote. Written notices of the decision will be sent to the applicant and made available for public viewing within 5 business days. Per the New Hampshire RSAs, if any party of standing feels that the board has made an error in their decision, they have 30 days to request a rehearing. No permits will be issued within this 30-day period. The board reserves the right to continue their deliberations on any matter if they feel they need to consult with legal counsel. All decisions will be made in accordance with New Hampshire RSAs. Now, this is applicable for this evening. The New Hampshire RSAs require that any motion for relief can only be granted by a favorable vote of at least 3 members of the board. By law, this is a 5-member board, as opposed to a simple majority of the members present at any meeting. Therefore, when there is less than a full board of 5 voting members present, like tonight, the applicant's chances of approval could be considerably diminished. When there are less than 5 voting members present, the applicant has a right to continue their application to the next available meeting in hopes that there will be 5 voting members available to hear their application. If any applicant decides to proceed with less than 5 board members present, they do so at their own peril. If an applicant moves forward and does not prevail in their request for relief, the lack of a 5-member board will not be considered as grounds to request a rehearing. Okay, that's all we have for tonight. Before we start the first hearing, why don't we quickly go over the minutes of our last meeting, which was February 29th. We hadn't had any applications since February, goodness. Did we all read them?
Yep.
Somebody make a motion.
Yes, I'd like to move that we approve the Zoning Board of Adjustment meeting minutes of February 29th, 2024.
I'll second that.
Thank you. And we won't have a meeting like that for another 4 years, will we?
Excuse me, folks. Thanks.
Okay. Have we all read it? Are you guys ready to make a decision? Okay, Dee, would you call the vote?
Peter Bealow,
Yes.
Jim Unger,
Yes.
Michael Murray,
Yes,
Jim O'Brien.
Yes.
All
You
right.
have 4-0-0.
Okay, Dee, would you call the first? They're related, so interrelated. Let's do them
Okay.
both together.
Case number 24-06, a request from Kimmy Nichols Center, Inc. for a special exception under Article 3, Section 220-8B-C that would allow for the expansion of a structure on a non-conforming lot. The application proposes raising the existing 3,565 square foot single-story structure and replacement with a 5,000 square foot two-story structure. The current non-conforming use of the property will not change. The property is located at 17 East Road, tax map 27, lot 8, in the LDR zoning district. The applicant is the property owner of record. Case number 2407, I'm out of practice. A request from Kimmy Nichols Center, Inc. for a variance from Article 5, Section 220-32FC4 that would allow proposed expansion of the site to exceed the 20% maximum allowed lot coverage. The proposed lot coverage is 23%. The property is located at 17 East Road, tax map 27, lot 8, in the LDR zoning district. The applicant is the property owner of record. I do have in the file permission from the property owner for SEC Associates to represent them at this meeting.
Okay, I think we've heard from SEC in the past, once or twice,
Perhaps.
perhaps. Okay, so Mr. Zilch, what are we looking at?
So, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, board staff, we decided to proceed with the four-member board.
Okay.
First and foremost, my name is Charlie Zilch from SEC and Associates, for the record, here with Rocco Vandenberg for special exception as noted in a variance
Need the name
request.
one more time, I'm sorry.
I'm going to have him spell it for you.
That'd be perfect.
So ROCCO, and last name is VANDERMERWE.
And I'm sorry, you're with Kimmy Nichols Center?
I'm the finance director.
Okay, thank you.
Okay,
Okay, so I'm here with Rocco on behalf of the Kimmy Nichols Center. This is on behalf of the owner, I should say. It's Kimmy Nichols Center, Inc., their formal title. And this is, as you know, located at 17 East Road and identified as tax map 27-8. In the handout, you should have a two-page plan set. I also have that up on the screen. The first page is an existing conditions plan. And the second page is a proposed conditions. And I'll kind of run you through the history, what we're looking at, and then ultimately into our proposal and why we're here before this board. So as noted, the request for the special exception is to allow for the existing commercial building within a residential zone to be expanded, and the variance is to allow for the expansion of the proposed building and pavement to exceed the 20% coverage allowance. So the property itself is 145,619 square feet, or 3.34 acres. It's a lot of record, and it has 83.3 feet of frontage on the north side of East Road. Everybody can see that on the existing conditions plan. The lot itself is entirely within the low-density or LDR zone, and it's also abutted on the east side, the south, and west sides by the LDR zone and residential uses. On the north side, the lot is abutted by the commercial 1 zone, and a commercial use is also located on that commercial property. That's that big storage facility out on 125. So that's on the opposite side of a big wetland out on 125. So the lot, as you're looking at it, arrives at its current configuration by a lot line adjustment plan that was approved back in 1972. The majority of the lot is located behind 2 existing street lots and has access through a 40-foot wide or 45-foot wide access between the 2 lots. So as you can see on East Road, you have a budding lot 27-7 and a lot 27-9. In between that is our access to 45-foot wide, not so much a right-of-way, but it is the parcel of land. It comes out and tees out to the roadway there. Okay? So looking at the overall condition of the lot is almost entirely comprised of well-drained soils, upland soils. It has a small amount of wetlands that abut from the large wetland complex located on the north side of the lot. The property is also located within an aquifer protection district, but due to the type of aquifer, is not limited to coverage restrictions here. So we don't have any coverage restriction. Oh, okay, thank you, Dave. There's no other restrictive overlying districts such as flood hazard or shoreline that apply to this site. So pretty clean site, just within aquifer protection.
So situated on the lot, as you can see on that first page, is the existing 3,565 square foot, one-story, again, for this purposes, call it a school building. That's what it was erected as. The wood frame building was initially constructed back in 1972 and has been expanded to its current footprint through several approved site plans by the planning board in 1977. There was one in 1990, and it was again in 1998. So it's been before the board a few times as a site plan. So this building and use is supported by an on-site water supply. So it has a well out behind it, as you can see, and has a state-approved septic system located to the right side of it as you face it from the street. You can see there's a raised up pump leach field right there that serves the building. So access, as I noted, is provided from East Road, and it leads to a fairly generous parking area located not only in the front of the building, but also to the west of the building. As you can see, there's striped parking right along the front of it, and then we have another larger parking area to the left side. So operating on the site is the Kimmy Nichols Center. This nonprofit care provider serves as a day community for people with disabilities. It offers education, support, training, transport, and therapy for individuals with needs. So it should be noted, even though it's a nonprofit, it is, as the town of Plastow considers a commercial use. That's why we're here. Okay, commercial use in LDR, even though it's a nonprofit. So now at capacity, it has 26 staff and clients. They're basically supported by the existing building, which contains offices, classrooms, exercise and therapy rooms. But the center over the years has provided exceptional care, and the need for this care has grown considerably for these people. So the center would like to remain in Plastow and needs to expand to keep up with the demand. So the proposal, if you guys want to put your direction or turn your attention to sheet 2, that's the proposed conditions. So as you can see on that second sheet, the proposal is to raise the now existing undersized building and in its place construct a 5,000 square foot footprint, 2-story center. The expanded building space will allow for upwards of 50 staff and clients, meeting current needs and the projected needs well into the future for the facility. A proposed carport on the east side of the building will allow for sheltered drop-off and pickup, currently lacking at the existing building. New and improved access around the building and a reconfigured parking area will address the needs for staff, client, as well as allow for increased emergency access, which is a little bit limited now with the current layout. This layout, we can provide access all the way around the building, nice generous turns for fire vehicles, emergency access, buses to get in and out of here a little bit more easily rather than a lot of turning around and backing up and making some crazy turns in there. So due to the generous size of the lot and the gentle slope from the street side to the rear north side of the lot, all potential stormwater flow can be captured and directed to several potential infiltration basins located along the edge of the parking access. We haven't done a stormwater plan at this point, but from my experience and looking at, like I said, the slope of this property, it's a fairly gentle slope. We can pick up pretty much all this stormwater flow, direct it to a series of basins behind the parking lot, and we'll be able to capture and treat everything here. So it really lends itself for this improvement, and we're able to contain that stormwater and treat it on site well outside the wetland buffers. So that works really well there. So also with this layout, we can still maintain a pretty decent vegetated buffer all along the back around that wetland, and we'll also be able to introduce a buffer that doesn't currently exist behind at least one of the street side lots. So all in all, it's a pretty nice plan. It's not a fully developed plan at this point, but it is a concept that's well along, and I don't think there'd be a lot of changes to it if we were to advance to the planning board. So obviously, if this board saw fit to grant the special exception and the variance, the next step for us would be to put together a fully engineered site plan, and off the planning board would go with it. Okay. Any questions about the existing conditions or the proposed conditions or the use here?
With the proposed conditions, the 5,000 square feet is the footprint, not the inside area.
That's the footprint,
Okay.
correct.
So
Side
you're going for,
dimensions.
10,000 square foot building.
yeah,
Yeah.
3,000 something square foot to 10,000 square foot. It's cool.
Correct.
Any board member have any question or comments so far?
Just a question more about your water supply. Because looking at the second map, it looks like there's a road going right around where the current well is. Are you planning on placing another well on the property or?
No, that well would be supported there, but there's also a very strong chance that we might go to municipal water that's available out at East Road. Did you guys put in an application for that?
Yes.
You did? Okay. So they may be abandoning that well, or at least using that well just for irrigation, and then going to a municipal water supply, which I think would make good sense for the site to switch over now, especially if they're going to go to all this trouble to construct a new building. Might as well get on to municipal water. As far as the septic, I looked at expanding that to meet the increase, and there's plenty of room to do that. I think the system that's there now, that was over-designed when it was put in a number of years ago, and so it served the building well, and I think it will well into the future. So I think, quite honestly, as we move forward, you probably just get away with a contingency design and just use the state-approved system that's there now. But when we get to the planning board, we'll discuss that, I'm sure. The only other state approval that would be required here, I don't believe we'd need an alteration of terrain permit. I don't think we'd be over the 100,000 square feet. But we are looking at it preliminarily right now with DOT to make sure they're going to be okay with the expanded use. And so an application's already been submitted to District 6.
Your original plan is well outside the 75-foot buffer zone for the wetlands. Your new plan is right up against it or in it.
Yeah, you can be within the 75-foot wetland setback as a conditional use permit with the Planning Board and the Conservation Commission. And I've already met with the Conservation Commission on this preliminarily. I told them I'd come back to them once we fully developed the drainage plan. So they were okay with that bit of incursion, particularly what the use is for is more like emergency access around the back. And like I said, it would be a conditional use permit with the planning board, so when we file a site plan, that would be part of the application.
Okay.
And I have run it by the Conservation Commission initially to make sure they're okay with it.
If you took the parking places on the, where it says optional additional 12 spaces,
Yes.
and made that material permeable, could you get back to 20% lot coverage?
Without that parking area, we're right pretty much at the 20%.
Okay.
I think I was just under. And so one of the considerations always been for special events, things like that, or even expansion, more expansion, or expanding clientele. So I thought it would be good to design this early on rather than be an afterthought and have it part of it. But the answer to that is if it was permeable pavement, we would be under the 20%.
And you could still use it for parking?
You could still use it for parking, correct?
The planning board does, just for reference, the planning board does prefer pavement for parking. Just let you know.
Okay, thank you.
They do have permeable pavement. See it all over the place.
There's some over at Red Oak Plaza, as I recall, or White Oak, whatever color oak it is, across from Market Basket, on the right-hand side of the building.
Right.
Okay. No other questions, folks? Not
really.
yet. But the evening is young.
It is that.
So let's go through this special exception request specifically.
So what I'm requesting here, well, everybody knows the provision. I'll just read it out loud. So it's Article 3, General Provisions, Sections 220-8B, use of a non-conforming lot. And this is only considered non-conforming because of the Kimmy Nichols Center is considered commercial use. So any building or structure on a non-conforming lot may not be
I'm sorry, Charlie, but I need to correct you on that. It's non-conforming lot because it doesn't have the required frontage in the LDR district. the 200 feet.
Is the,
The use is non-conforming, but it's grandfathered, but the special exception is because the lot is non-conforming,
correct. Okay.
which is the frontage.
Okay, that's fine. All right. So any building or structure on a non-conforming lot may not be extended or expanded except by a special exception 220-8C. And so our request is that the existing 3565 square foot, one-story building / center to be raised and in its place construct a new 5,000 square foot, two-story building / center, existing commercial use in the LDR zone, as Dee had just corrected me on. So do you want to run through the criteria?
Yeah, let's.
So, the first criteria for the special exception, number one, lot frontage must be at least 1/2 the frontage required in the district in which the land is located, and that at the building line, the frontage requirement can be met. Minor dimensional waivers may be granted if justice requires. So my response to that, this lot contains 83.3 feet of frontage on East Road. The required frontage for this LDR zone is 200 feet, and half of that is 100. Although slightly less than the required 100 feet at the roadway, the lot greatly exceeds the requirement at the building line, offering approximately 377 feet. The access is a safe access, and good sight line exists in either direction. An additional 16.7 feet of frontage does not add any additional value to the lot in respect to safe access, nor does it add value to the lot in its ability to support the proposed expansion. We would ask that this board consider waiving the minor dimensional requirement along with consideration of the special exception. Do you want me to just keep going through?
Keep going. Let's
Okay,
go
that's
through
fine. Number two, location of the well and subsurface sewage disposal installation can meet all state and local regulations. I wrote, my response is that the on-lot water supply / well maintains its radius entirely on the lot and meets the setback to the existing septic system. Additionally, there is potential to tie into the municipal water system in the future. The existing on-lot sewage disposal system is a state-approved system that could accommodate up to 30 staff clients as configured. A contingency design will be prepared for providing a new system located in the same area that will support the proposed 50 staff clients. This proposed system will not require any variances or waivers from local regulations or waivers from state regulations. Number three, the improvement of the lot will not endanger the public health or welfare. The use of this lot will remain as a day community for people with disabilities with similar function as any daycare, small school, or day provider that commonly operate within the residential zones. This low-intensity use is well established, and the center's operators have an excellent relationship with all abutting neighbors. The daily activities will not deviate from what it now currently enjoys. As before, there will be no large vehicles operating from the site, and hours of operation will remain on a daytime schedule as before. Although there will be an increase in staff clients, the lot easily supports the increased water supply demand and sewage requirements. As noted, all potential stormwater will be maintained and treated on site. In all, the proposal will not endanger the public health or welfare. Number four, location of foundation will be certified by a licensed land surveyor. And my response is the site has been accurately surveyed and all wetlands have been delineated. The building envelope is well defined and the proposed building will be located by a licensed land surveyor. And that's the four criteria.
So I know this is a pretty well-developed plan, but not finalized.
Correct.
In recent months, maybe years, this board has had a tendency to put a condition on anything we grant that says that the plan that was presented to us is the same plan that goes to the planning board. How close to done is this plan?
So my feeling is that I've looked at this a number of times. Like I said, I've had it in front of the Conservation Commission. I feel that this is, and I've worked with the Kimmy Nichols group for we've had quite a few sessions looking at this, reviewing this, kind of kicking around. I think this is about as close as we're going to get before we go to a final plan. And the only tweaks that I think may come would be either from the planning board's reviewing engineer, the board itself, or perhaps police and fire. But we made sure that all the turning radii here are adequate to serve even the largest vehicles that Plastow utilizes on these sites.
If we were to modify our typical condition to just limit it to the location of the building on the lot will stay the same between zoning board and planning board. Is that a non-starter for you folks, or is that something you can live with?
So it would be the special exception now.
Yeah, for the special exception and probably later the variance.
So with the variance, when we get to the lot coverage, I did ask just to round it up to 23%.
Right.
Okay. I know we're at like 21 point something right now,
Right.
and to make it to allow for changes as we go through the process.
Right. Well-
We wouldn't be able to exceed 23% because that's
That's not the issue.
Okay.
The issue, or the question is, will the location of the structure itself stay the same? And can we put a condition that the location of the structure that the planning board sees will be the same location of the structure that we've seen?
I can say with relative certainty, yes.
Okay.
It will stay the same with maybe minor modifications of parking and the access around it.
Yeah. So,
So I would agree. I
So,
would say
so the
yes.
reason this came about was actually because of an abutting property to you folks, where we saw a plan for a storage facility that was way in the back of the property.
Right.
And then when it came to the planning, and we granted it with no conditions. And it came to planning board, they had moved it all the way up against as close as they could to the street. And that created a little agita. We hadn't anticipated that.
That wasn't related to the buildings, though. That was related to the use. You had
thought there was
approved the use
lo-
to the back
location.
of the lot, and there was retail in the front.
Right.
And then they decided to move the use to the front. And,
At least for now, lose the retail.
right,
Yeah.
right. So it wasn't related to the building footprint. It was related to the use.
What they had in front was a significantly smaller building. And
Right, but it was still within, it still fit all the setbacks.
oh, yeah, it
Yeah.
did. Yeah.
Yeah.
No doubt about it.
And their request was for the variance for the use. That's why we had that condition the way we did.
Okay. So anyhow, so that's where that came from.
No, and I don't have any issue with that at all. I think that we've got this pretty well nailed down as far as where the building's going to be located, in the same basic footprint as the old building.
Okay. And before we go on to the variance, any other questions?
For me.
No?
Okay. Sorry.
No problem. Do you want me to go through the criteria for the variance?
Let's do the criteria for the variance.
Yeah, again, this is maximum lot coverage that's allowed within the zone is 20%. That includes pavement and building area. And so expansion of the site, this is what our request is to permit here. Expansion of the site to exceed the lot coverage, building and pavement limitation of 20%. Currently, the lot coverage is 13.4%. The proposal shows 21.8%. Requesting coverage relief up to 23% to allow for adjustments in design as may be required and/or requested at the planning board and/or fire police departments. Existing commercial use in the LDR zone. So as you know, we have 5 criteria. I'll run through those. The proposed variance will not be contrary to the public interest because, and our response is, by granting the variance, it will allow the center's owner operators the full productive use of the property and expansion of a well-established facility. The service provided here can be easily considered an essential service, and the owners would like to remain in Plastow. The request to allow an increase in lot coverage is necessary to support the proposed expansion. This proposal balances current and future needs along with increased ability to better access the building and serve the staff and students. The increase request is only slightly greater than what is allowed. The slight increase in coverage can be easily mitigated with fully engineered stormwater drainage design that will allow for infiltration within the property limits, ensuring groundwater recharge is maintained, which is an important part of the coverage.
Yeah.
Groundwater recharge. Number 2, the spirit and intent of the ordinance is preserved because our response is that the intent of the ordinance is to ensure that any given site has adequate space for on-site groundwater recharge, sufficient natural buffering from neighboring properties, and to limit overall site impact. On a lot that just meets the lot size requirement of 110,000 square feet, this is an example, the area that would remain unaffected by coverage requirement would be about 88,000 square feet. In this particular case, our lot is much larger than the minimum requirement. It's 145,619 square feet in size. If the requested 23% coverage is considered, this would leave 112,000 square feet of our lot unaffected by the coverage requirement. A great area that would be wet on a typical standard 110,000 square foot lot. Additionally, as demonstrated by the submitted plan, groundwater recharge will be maintained on site. Increased buffering along the residential lot on East Road can be provided. All of the setbacks are met and exceeded, and the layout utilizes much of the area already established with impervious surfaces. So if you take a look at that second page again, you can see that we are utilizing quite a bit of the pavement on the westerly side of the parking area, maintaining a lot of that, as well as some of the pavement along the front. So it's really replacing a lot of that area with new pavement and reconfiguring it. Number 3, there is substantial justice in granting the variance because any loss to the individual that is not outweighed by a gain to the general public is an injustice. Our response is it will allow the center to meet the increased demand for its service, increase the quality and level of its care, and to maintain operation here in Plastow. The proposed supporting design of the site is intended to satisfy both short and long-term needs for the center. Again, the request is for a small increase in coverage so that all of these goals can be met. All improvements can be made without impacting the abutting property owners or general public. There is substantial justice in granting the variance, which allows for the full productive use of the property without sacrificing the existing well-established use. Number 4, the values of the surrounding properties will not be diminished because our response is that granting the variance would allow the center to continue providing service at this location. The center and its owners have always been considered the abutting property owners and will remain so. The improvements proposed to the site are within the same general area of the existing facility, and any and all impacts will be mitigated. Considering that granting the variance only allows for the site to be operated as it had always been operated, the values of surrounding properties will not be diminished. And lastly, number 5, little enforcement of the provisions of the ordinance would result in unnecessary hardship. And our response to that is that the zoning restriction is intended primarily for residential development. It does not consider particular instances such as this, where you have an approved quote-unquote commercial use. By their nature, commercial uses in particular, this use require larger service/building areas as well as access and parking. Maintaining the 20% limitation restricts flexibility in design. It is not necessary when the increase can be mitigated. Considering the limited request and the intent of the ordinance, full compliance with the coverage requirement is unnecessarily restrictive. All considered denial result in unnecessary hardship if literal enforcement of the provisions of the ordinance were applied, especially in this application.
Questions, comments on this, folks? Clear. Okay, Dee, do we have any, or do we have anybody speaking in favor of this? If you are, feel free to come up to a mic. We'll need your name and address.
My name is Terry Trudell, and my son is a client, Timmy Nichols. He's been going there for years. I've been involved in the town of Plastow for a long time. Actually, I used to own SE Cummings and Associates, SEC. And so I'm a little bit familiar with design for sites and so forth. And I would like to voice my support for the project. I feel that in reference to the special exception, because of the frontage, it's really, the lot dictates the situation, that it really can't be changed. And then the overall coverage as far as 23%, being involved in the past with designing sites, I feel that 23% is just going over 3% over the requirement is a very small amount in comparison to looking at the overall project and designing it. So I'd like to just voice my support for this.
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay.
Dee, do you have any emails or letters?
No, I do not.
Phone calls, nothing? Okay.
No.
Anybody speaking against this proposal? I have to ask. Nobody? And anything against? Come in?
No.
Okay. You folks have any final questions or
Yeah,
comments?
just, you show 3 areas of the potential stormwater basin. When you're saying potential, it means the location may change a little bit, but you are definitely planning
Oh, absolutely.
stormwater basins.
Yeah, it's required. It's part of the site plan requirement.
Yeah.
That you've got to provide stormwater management on site.
Right.
And so we have, I chose those areas because they're fairly large areas in which we could do, there's a number of different things you can do, but in this case, I think we probably just capture sheet flow off the pavement in the building and direct it into several different infiltration basins. It's good sandy soils out there, really
Right.
lends itself for it. So I think we'll be able to capture pretty much all of it.
Yeah, because I mean, that's really the main basis for the amount of impervious area is really to reduce runoff the site,
Exactly.
which you're catching.
So when we put together the full site plan and the fully engineered plans, there'll be a drainage study, which will accommodate, it'll basically calculate the existing flows, the existing conditions,
Right.
and then what the proposed conditions will be after this is constructed and accommodate any increase and make sure that it's directed to some sort of an infiltration basin or some sort of stormwater management basin.
Nothing else, folks? Do you have any final comments, folks, before we call these two hearings to a close and go into deliberation?
I just want to say thank you for giving us the opportunity.
The law requires it.
Yes, but still,
They do it anyway.
got to be polite. So we appreciate it. And thank you for your consideration.
Okay. Well,
Mr. Chairman, thank you very much. I think we're all set.
I hate people calling me that. I keep thinking of Chairman Mao. He does that a lot too. I'll wear my People's Liberation Army hat in here one of these nights. Okay, I'm going to call these hearings to a close and we will go into deliberation. Your folks are welcome to stay or not. It's totally up to you. I don't think it'll take all that long.
Thank you.
Okay. Let's look at the request for special exception first. We're in deliberation of that. Does anybody have a motion for that?
Yes, I move to grant the request for a special exception under Article 3, Paragraph 220-8.c for the expansion of a 3,565 square foot structure to a 5,000 square foot structure on a non-conforming lot, 17 East Road, tax map 27, lot 8, with the following conditions. The applicant will need to seek planning board approval of an amendment site plan. The building location in the plan that was submitted with this application shall be the building location in the same plan that is submitted to the planning board as it relates to the special exception as granted. Any change to the plan as it relates to the special exception voids the approval.
Before anyone seconds this, is it normal to use just the first floor area? Because this is technically a 10,000.
I was just going to ask
square foot
Mr.
building.
Murray if you could add 5,000 square foot
Ground area
footprint.
or footprint.
Okay, yeah, I'd like to
You
amend
okay
that
with
to
that
include
change?
footprint and,
Good point.
Now I'll second it.
Okay. Okay, so the motion's been made and seconded. Any comments before we go through the special exception criteria? Nope. Okay. So first thing is lot frontage must be at least half the frontage required in the district. The land is located within and at the building, and that at the building line, the frontage required can be met.
Could I interrupt for a half a second and make one more suggestion? on the
Of course you may.
One more suggestion that we add to the motion and a waiver of the 100-foot requirement for the frontage to the 83.3.
Well, if we grant this, that's explicit.
It says in the criteria, though, that it either has to be half of what is required in the district, or the board has to grant them a waiver.
Okay.
okay. Yes, I, again, amend to, if you could,
I got it.
you go, thank you. The 83
Mr. Unger, you
point something.
seconded what he didn't say?
I'll
Okay.
second what he didn't say.
Okay. So lot frontage again, minor dimensional waivers can be granted if justice requires. I mean, I think the frontage they have is very adequate to get all vehicles in and out of there.
Oh, yeah. It's been that way since, what, the 70s?
Grandfathered in, isn't it? I mean, it's been that way since, what, 72? Whenever
Yeah, basically.
the first
Just
thing was
the way-
granted.
it's the way they subdivided it.
And once you get to the building, it easily meets the 100, well over the 100% requirements for the district. It's over 50% more, in fact. Okay. Location of the well and subsurface sewage disposal installation can meet all state and local regulations. It appears to be true, especially as they plan to go forward with getting town water. The improvement of the lot will not endanger the public health or welfare. I'm not seeing any possibility of.
I don't see how it could.
And the location of a foundation, of the new foundation shall be certified by a licensed land surveyor. I believe S.E. Cummings has certified land surveyors. That, I don't think that's an issue. So, want to discuss this or take a vote?
I'm ready to vote.
Okay, just giving people the option. I don't want to railroad. D, let's call the roll.
Jim Unger,
Yes?
Michael Murray,
Yes,
Jim O'Brien,
Yes,
Peter Bealow.
Yeah, yes.
Vote is 4-0-0.
Okay, now we're on to the request for the variance. Somebody make a motion on that?
I move to grant the request for a variance from Article 5, Table 220-32.f.c, parentheses 4, to allow up to 23% lot coverage as part of the proposed development of the site at 17 East Road, tax map 27, lot 8, with the following conditions. The applicant will need to seek planning board approval for an amended site plan. The plan that was submitted with this application shall be the same plan that is submitted to the planning board as it relates to the special exception as granted.
Can you change that to variance, please?
To the variance as granted.
Thank you.
Any change to the plan as it relates to the variance voids the approval. Any other condition the board may deem appropriate based on discussion during the public hearing.
We also need to add the deal about the building being in the same location.
That's pretty much what that second one does because the
Okay.
plan,
It's
the
already in
building
there.
is located on that plan.
All right, I'll second that.
Okay. Any discussion before we go down the criteria?
I have nothing additional.
Not really.
Okay. The proposed variance isn't contrary to the public interest? I'm not seeing it, especially with the 3 detention ponds and all that. They're not gonna,
Right. They're gonna have either the same runoff conditions or less than the existing.
yeah.
And that's
Yep.
what,
Spirit and intent of the ordinance is preserved? Well, I mean, the spirit and intent of the ordinance is to keep that water on the property and discharge it properly, and it appears to me that they're doing that. There's substantial justice in granting the variance. I always hate this one. Any loss to the individual that is not outweighed by a gain to the general public is an injustice. And I don't see how denying this based on substantial justice is a gain to the general public.
It would
no,
provide more availability of services to the public that needs it.
Yeah,
right, better than it's a nice facility to have in Plastow. If who knows, they could end up in Salem or something if they couldn't expand here. It's definitely a benefit to the general public.
Yeah. Values of surrounding properties will not be diminished. And they're adding more buffers, especially against the lot in the north, on the northwest of them. I guess I'm just not seeing how there's any way that replacing a 1972 structure with a modern building with good parking and good access, and more buffers, plantings and such could harm property values. Just not seeing that at all. Literal enforcement of the provisions of the ordinance would result in an unnecessary hardship.
I think, if you really had to squeeze it, you could probably narrow things, but then that might not be so good for the fire department and
Right.
ambulances and anyone else who had to get in there. I mean, you want to have a nice working site and not just say, oh, you need to be 20%.
Right. And I guess in theory, while they believe they can take the optional parking area and eliminate that and just meet to 20% and have permeable stuff, I'm just not seeing where that's a big gain. For us, it's right against a detention pond,
Right.
So.
I have no problems with it at all.
You folks ready to take the vote?
Yes.
Yes.
Dee, would you call it?
Michael Murray,
Yes.
Jim O'Brien,
Yes.
Peter Belo,
Yes.
Jim Unger.
Yes.
Vote is 400.
Okay. Do we have any other business tonight?
I left you some presents with your stack.
I noticed that.
The first one is the updated zoning ordinance. You guys haven't met since the Marchtown vote, so this is my first opportunity to give it to you.
And that is a complete replacement of the
Complete-
old one?
That's a 1-for-1.
Okay.
The second one is the ZBA handbook. You should have the tabbed version. You just need to take the sections out and put the tab sections in. You'll notice in the second section, there'll be one page that'll have a blank back, and it's because I had to copy it a different way to make it work in the tabs. This also used to have a part of the appendix in section D that had all the case law and everything, which they've taken out of this now. So that's why you got the third one,
Case
the
law.
case law. They no longer give us the ability to buy these. We have to print them in-house now. So the law one probably won't get updated as quickly as the other one, but I will be putting a link to it on the ZBA page. So then if anybody wants to go to it in the future, they'll be able to.
Perfect.
That's what the lawyers are for, right?
Pardon me?
I said, that's what the lawyers are for.
Okay, anything else tonight?
I have nothing else.
Then let me give Frank a call here.
I have the time is 7:19.
We be done.
All right.
Thank you.